Hey guys, this is a brand new show that we're attempting to do, and we're going to do a show where we're bringing on experts in the arcade modding community, the arcade community. As you guys know, I've kind of gotten involved in this, and you guys may know this guy. Maybe you won't, unless you live in a rock or another planet. But we've got Glen from Glen's Retro Show, Glen Pimento, joining us here. We're going to talk about arcades and have some fun today, Glen.
That's the plan. Sounds great to me.
So one of the things that we wanted to do, and we want to kind of get your feedback, the community here is, I've been talking with Glenn, and I know Glenn, you're working on some stuff behind the scenes. You and I have been kind of talking of how you can do some live video and start showing some really cool stuff with what you're working on. And I wanted to kind of bring you on, and anybody else that wants to join. We're doing this via Facebook Live, so we have it on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, come over to Facebook. Glenn, I think you did put it on your retro show page, correct?
Right. Yes. It should be shown right now on the ATGames global fan page and Glen's Retro Show Game Gurus. It should be shared on those both forums.
So Glenn, you'll be watching those. I'll be watching the one on the Tech Buzz for comments. So if you guys got comments or questions for Glenn or myself, please put them in there, and we'll do our best to kind of follow it because I have a feeling there's going to be people from, you know what I mean, from like all over the place that are going to, send messages, send comments, whatever to do this. But um, yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I think this is something that it's much needed. And you just recently acquired an arcade cabinet. I think we're going to discuss at some point today. But
Yeah, I think so.
let's talk a little bit about what you've been kind of doing behind the scenes for the arcade one up cabinets that you've been doing with some of the parts and things that people aren't familiar. Maybe you've seen in the forums and different Facebook groups about Glen's spinner or Glen's joystick, or for Tron. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, the stuff I've been making started to come about when Arcade One Up came on the scene. So not quite a year ago, but we started to make a spinner to address some of the issues that the Asteroids machine was having with the Tempest spinner. It wasn't really a true spinner. It was very clicky. I have a contact, a couple of buddies in the arcade industry who were kind of excited to work on a project. So we kind of talked about it, and that's when we came out with the first original spinner, which is what we call a Hall effect spinner. There's no actual mechanical parts other than the actual spinning ball bearings for the unit, and it's made of metal, and it's inexpensive. It goes between about $40 right now. It goes on sale once in a while, but it's designed to work directly in an arcade one-up, but also it has the ability to work via USB for, say, a Raspberry Pi or a PC. And after we had done that, the next thing to tackle was a trackball. So we came out with a trackball as well. So basically, we were taking the money that we made from the spinner to kind of go towards the trackball because I don't know if people know. It's a surprise to me how expensive it is to make plastic molds. I mean, they can cost you $20,000 to $40,000 just for a mold, that design. So we started doing that, and again, it was originally designed for the 12-in-1 and Centipede units, but there was a couple passions I had that were kind of beyond what they were. And a couple of my favorite games is, Tron and obviously Star Wars. So we released about a month ago a Tron joystick, which was really a pet project of mine that we came out with. But I know that ATGames has, Tron
Mm-hmm.
built in there.
Mm-hmm.
So my plan is to, basically modify my stick for that design. But again, it's USB, so it works in pretty much anything. It doesn't even have to be USB. You can connect the micro switches to anything. And then the current project working on right now is probably going to end up being on Kickstarter, which is my Star Wars yoke. I know that Arcade One just come out with their Star Wars arcade cabinet, and from what I've seen and tried for a few minutes, it's nice. I mean, that Star Wars cabinet is very, very nice. So is the Turtles and the Capcom one. They've kind of stepped up their game. The console's a little bit more money, but that's to be expected with the increase in the quality. But even still, the yoke in Arcade One Up is still a plastic device. It still uses potentiometers. It still uses a mechanical way of getting the feedback. So the Star Wars yoke we're working on is going to be again using a Hall effect. So it'll be magnetic technology. There is no potentiometer. There's no gears. There's nothing to grease, nothing to wear out or break. And we're shooting for backers on Kickstarter. we're shooting to have an all-metal yoke using this technology for about $150. And we are looking. Our goal is to hit $30,000, and it's going to be on Kickstarter. So I don't want people to think it's going to be like an Atari VCS thing. I'm so disappointed, and I'm a huge Atari fan, and the company, in my opinion, is being kind of dragged through the mud by the way it's been run right now. I mean, the younger generation is Nintendo or Microsoft or Sony, but to us old timers, Atari was king, and they were king for such a long time. The crash happened, and they never recovered. It's just it hurts.
Yeah.
But I want people to know that Kickstarter we're going to do, it's a full funding or not. So if it doesn't get fully funded, no one's going to be charged a dime. And if it does get funded, they will be getting this Star Wars yoke. And we're looking past that as well. I mean, there's other projects we're working on I could talk about, which is light gun technology, although it's not a true light gun because those require a CRT for the way that they work. But it will be a gun technology you can use in these games for like House of the Dead, those are favorite games I had, Operation Wolf, stuff like that, steering wheel, pedals, stuff along those lines. So we have a lot of things going down, but each one is incremental because we're only a couple of guys working on this, and in addition to everything else that we're doing. I mean, I'm surprised there's enough hours in the day. But the next project right now is now that Tron is done, is that Star Wars yoke, and if all goes well, early 2020, assuming the Kickstarter works out well, we'll have that available. And again, it'll work in hopefully everything I talked about. Arcade 1-Up, assuming we can work out with things with them, USB for working in a PC, and so forth.
So one of the things we wanted to do on this is because we are all in these forums for the arcade machines. We're in there for retro games, and that's kind of my thing. My son likes the new school stuff, the PlayStation 4, and I do too. I mean, I'll play it as well. But there's nothing that beats these old retro style games that we grew up with, and I think it's pretty awesome. But what we wanted to do is bring on real experts, real people that have been involved in this field for quite some time, to not be interviewed and asked like, how did you get your start, all this other stuff. We wanted to bring these guys
What did you
on.
have for dinner yesterday?
Exactly. We wanted to bring you on to kind of be free form, free flowing, to be able to talk about these new products that have come out that you've been able to get your hands on for people. And in fact, there's a gentleman named Matt in the chat. He had asked, are these the real deal or are these emulated games on these cabinets? And the answer to that is they are emulated, but they are, for the most part, right? I mean, they're pretty accurate to the original ROM.
Right. It depends on the manufacturer. I mean, there's emulated and then there's simulated. It depends on what you're going for. Now, if you're talking about like an Arcade 1-Up or a Replicade or a Numbskull or the new ATGames machine, those are emulated either arcade or console ROMs. But if you go to something smaller like Basic Fun, they have nice machines. Or if you go to the what's the other way? ATGames, and we have My Arcade. Those are sometimes NES ROMs. They're still ROM based. Then you have the Super Impulse Tiny Arcades. I love those suckers, and those are very well simulated. They're not the arcade ROM at all, but they're pretty good recreations. But I'm assuming he's talking about like Arcade 1-Up, and those are true arcade ROMs emulated. Some of them are using MAME. Some are using custom. Like the new Star Wars cabinet, I know for a fact was a custom emulator for it because the actual Star Wars emulator in MAME was never fully completed. There was stuff missing from it, and that's why some people were shocked when they saw like a brown screen come up when they got hit. The arcade machine did do that, but so many people playing on MAME, it's been forgotten.
Right.
So I take my hat off to Arcade 1-Up for again going the extra mile to getting a company just to write code for that.
And there's a lot of talk going around, and I know I'm looking forward to the ATGames machine showing up here because there's some things I want to do, and I was showing you kind of in the pre-show of where I want to be able to grab the screen and show it in real time, kind of like I was just doing with the websites. I want to be able to do that for demoing games and things like that. But what I think people need to get past is, you're either with ATGames or you hate ATGames, or you're with Arcade 1-Up or you hate Arcade 1-Up. And what people don't realize is both of them have superior products. Both of them have like fantastic products, and both of them are directing them toward different consumers. Let's just be honest. And I kind of wanted you to touch on that because I see it all the time. I mean, there's fanboys for everything. I mean, we deal with it with Mac versus PC, Nintendo versus Sega. We've had it for all years. Now it's PlayStation versus Xbox. I mean, you're going to have it. So,
Right, and it's a little worse also in this industry because I mean, I do have a real arcade machine. I have a Zaxxon, I do, and they're purists. I mean, I have Amiga computers, and they are purists. If it's not an Amiga stock the way it is, get out. You're not one of us. It gets that way,
it
and
does.
it really does. I mean, I had to leave some groups just because I couldn't. I want to go there for the enjoyment. I want
Yeah.
to share things, but when people get to be the point, well, what you put a sticker on your machine? Get out. I'm like, all right, that's fine. But what you just said is something I've been talking about for a while. Whereas you have like factions. You have people who are fans of a certain product, and there's nothing wrong with that. People like the Yankees, some people like them, some people like the
Right.
Jets, some people like the Giants.
Mhm.
Some people want a true arcade machine, and you know what? They are nice, but there are so many downsides to them. People don't really think about it. It's like a puppy. You've never had a puppy before. They're cute. Well, guess what?
Yep.
You got to feed them. You have to
You have to
walk them.
walk them, take them
My
out.
my son wanted a dog forever. Cole wanted a dog forever. Guess who's doing all the work? I mean, Cole. So, so
That's why I got a cat.
these big art. There you go. So the big army arcade machines are fine, but you know what? They're 300 pounds. If you need to move it, good luck unless you have friends coming over to do it. Then you got to give them beer. You
Yeah.
got to feed them when you do stuff like that. They break down. The CRTs, you get burn in. The capacitors go bad. There's just a lot of work that has to be done. They are nice though, so don't get me wrong. But when Arcade One came onto the scene, at first people were kind of like, ooh, kind of excited. They're a little bit small, but to be honest, sitting on a stool is why I kind of prefer playing games right now. I'm not
Yeah.
15 anymore. I'm 50. I don't mind sitting down.
Right.
But if I wanted to stand, you could buy a riser, put them up, and they are a very good height.
Mhm.
They're easy to move around. I mean, they're 60 pounds about. Guy like me, you can see I work out, but even still, um, they're just easy to get around the house, to move up and down stairs. Try doing that with the Zaxxon. Once I came down to the basement, it's staying until I'm dead, and that is not moving anywhere. So, and the other good thing about it is they're not really expensive. I know people keep saying, "Oh, they're overpriced." They're really not. Okay, you have to
Right.
pay a company, you have to mill the wood, you have to come up with the artwork, you got to pay the licensing fees, you got to pay distributors, you have to ship them out. These are all costs.
Yep.
If you can build an arcade one up for 5 cents and a fingernail, I'll buy one from you. But I don't see you doing that. Um, People can make them, but I tell you right now, shipping costs alone is a lot of money.
Yep.
Um, but we talked about before about the different markets and stuff like that. You're right. I mean, when I look at the arcade one-ups, to me, it's like you're walking into the pizzeria when you were a kid, and you walk and see all these monitors up, all these things lit up, machine after machine after machine, different machines, their artwork,
Yep.
everything. That's an experience that kids today just really don't have. The old arcades from the late 70s, early 80s, that was it. You walked in, you got a slice of pizza for 75 cents. And you walked in, you had your Berserk and your Asteroids and your Centipede and everything else. That's what people are going for. And if looking into my arcade one up forum that I have, people aren't buying one of them. They're buying 5, 6, or more, and then modding some to make ones that aren't even out yet. So someone the
Yep.
other day had made a Dragon's Lair, which was gorgeous, was
Right.
beautiful. So that's a particular kind of experience, and not incredibly expensive as versus buying 10 arcade machines at $3,000 a piece. And they don't take up as much room. Now at games, that thing is a different model, and just like when at games, I'm sorry, when Arcade One first came on the scene, there were people like against it, but after the new machines like the TMNT, Star Wars, those games, people are turning their heads, realizing they're actually pretty nice. So at games though is coming at it a different angle. I don't see people buying 3, 4, 5 different at games Ultimate Legends machines. Now they're going to be buying just one
Right.
of that. And with that one machine, they'll get a little bit of everything. It's like a Swiss Army knife type machine. You can play the built-in games. You can use Steam. You can plug in stuff into the USB port and the HDMI port, play your Xbox or PlayStation on it. You can now add games. I mean, Retro Ralph and Cool Toy showed the other day that they released like a Genesis and an older version of MAME. I think it was MAME version 203, 203, and you get some games running on there. So they are slowly improving it. Now I did work with them months ago, and I'd gotten a prototype unit, and it was okay. I wasn't thrilled about it at the time. The software wasn't that great. There was some stuff in it that wasn't quite worked out yet,
And it's
but
to be
I worked
expected.
them a little bit.
It's to be expected.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. But the key to this machine is that it is Wi-Fi and Ethernet built in. So they can, almost like a Tesla, you could wake up tomorrow, there's a firmware update, and they added new features or they fixed a
Mm-hmm.
bug.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a key feature to this particular machine. I don't think it's the most attractive machine out of the box.
Right.
But again, in this community, we have people like Arcade Graphics and people who can make new artwork for it.
Sure.
So this is on the market literally a week.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's 1 week. And within that 1 week, I'm going to tell you, I'm very impressed with it. I own a ton of that game stuff, and most of this stuff, again, people have to take it with a grain of salt. When you buy the Atari Flashback or the Sega Flashbacks, they're like $30
Yeah, that's
roughly.
what I have. I have the Sega
And
flashback from ATGames.
right, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some issues with that one with the sound. But if you never had a Sega or you did, and you don't want to buy a whole collection all over again, you buy that. You have 80 games built in. Maybe 40 of them are actual from the Genesis. Others like shovelware. But you can relive it a little bit. Not everyone is a diehard person. They may be fine buying that, plugging it in, playing for a couple hours once in a while, and putting it away. If you're a true diehard, you're going to have the Sega Genesis anyway. Go buy a flash cart and
Right.
you'll be fine.
Right.
So it comes in. There's different people in this world. Not everyone. It's cookie cutter. Not everyone's going to be the same. And I do think from what I've seen between their past products versus this one, to me, it's a game changer for them. They're taking this extremely serious. I've had conversations with their CEO and their staff, and from what they've shown, I mean, talk is talk. People can say anything that they want,
Right.
but they're showing already they're very committed to this console, and they're very committed to updates and listening to the community because people have made comments. And then as a firmware update comes out, and it's either been fixed or you see it's being addressed. So that to me is the key to like this channel is going to be here and the forums is to get these companies engaged to us, the people who are purchasing it,
Yep.
not just listen to a marketing firm saying, "Oh, we walked up a couple malls. This is what they want." They may sell some that way, but people like us are the ones who are going to drive it past just one season. It's going to drive it past being a fad
Oh.
into something that's really a money making stream for them.
And I think, Glenn, one of the big things that AtGames did is they took, and I know you've got a couple full size cabinets, and you hit the nail right on the head. Is people don't want that in their basement as much as they like the game, unless you're like a collector. I've seen people with the TMNT full size cabinet, and they went and bought
And they are beautiful.
They are, and they bought the Arcade One Up one, and they put it because they're collecting that particular brand. But what AtGames did really well with their new cabinet is it's a full size cabinet, but they slimmed it down, so it's not going to take up the room that a full
Right.
size cabinet, and it's not going to break your back getting it down. I think some of the people said it's about what 100 pounds the box,
Yeah,
give or take.
it was about 90, but I will say another difference between the two is you can probably fit 2 or 3 arcade one-ups in their flat boxes in the back of like a Mini Cooper or something
Right,
like that.
right, right.
This you're gonna need something a little bit bigger. You're gonna need a small SUV, a minivan, or someone with a pickup truck. At least the one that was delivered to me and the one you get from Sam's Club. I don't know if the Walmart one, because that is a slightly smaller unit supposedly. I'm not sure if that the box is smaller, but from what I can tell from this one is that the monitor section is pre-built. So it's still going to be at least as big as that. I was able to lift it myself again. I'm only 150 pounds myself, but I was able to lift the box, move it, and get it in. But when it came to the stairs, I just opened the box, took each part out, and brought them down individually. Where the arcade one up, I could have easily just taken down, the steps. So again, it's just
Yeah.
a slightly different packaging, but everything in the box. And I'm going to say this again: there are a lot of people have had issues with arcade one up getting stuff damaged in their boxes. I've yet to get one. I've got 11 of them. I can't remember. It's pretty sad when you can't remember how many you have.
Yeah, I
I
got
think I
10.
have
I got
11 of
10,
them.
and I haven't had any damage to my arcade one ups either.
Right. I have
Yeah.
not had any problems with it, but I do know people have. But there's also that old saying, the squeaky wheel, gets the oil. You don't hear of the good. You always hear
Yes.
the bad. It's very rare. Like even on Amazon, I'm fortunate that people have been leaving very good reviews. But I know there's a lot more people who like them that will leave a review. It's just people don't. They enjoy it, they play it, they forget about it. So it's only the problems you hear. And so far, like I said, it's one for the other. I guess
Hmm.
well, I lost my train of thought there. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I've been okay with the machines. I know people had problems, but the At Games machine came again. It was boxed very well, and there was no problems with it so far. And I was very impressed with the quality of it. Now, I want to say something else real quick too, because I've seen some people posting stuff about the At Games machine, saying that it's like, so it's real wood. It's like, blah blah blah. It's not. It's from what I can tell. I'm no expert in wood, but it seems to be the same type of material between the two companies they're using, and there's a reason for that. Mostly weight.
Yes.
This stuff has to be shipped. If you're going to ship anything like these with real wood in there,
Right.
the price point's going to go way up just for shipping alone, let alone their cost for buying it. And there's nothing wrong with this type of wood. There isn't. I don't know why people complain about that at all, honestly.
People don't get that. I sit there and I read these in forums, and a lot of times I'm quiet about it. I just sit there and I go, really? These guys, and I've made a couple comments and people have deleted them where I said, you had these people that are like, really? I wish they'd come down to $75. I can't wait till Black Friday to where they come down to $75. And people don't realize the reason that they're going down to $75 is because they can, and because these Walmarts are in places where probably people aren't going to buy them, and the store already bought too many of them, and they're trying to get rid of
Right.
this stock. It's not that these companies are going out of business, and I could foresee
No.
this with ATGames too. If they're in some Sam's Clubs or Walmarts that they're in areas that maybe are poverty stricken, people aren't going to buy these cabinets. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to discount them to get them off the shelf to stay within their margin, and people don't
I think
realize
that's
that.
part of it. I think it's definitely part of it. Another part of it is, like with anything else, at games and just came out with theirs. That's one thing, but the arcade one-ups have the new models coming out. They have a floor. People have bought their asteroids or the centipedes, Space Invaders,
Mhm.
Galaga will probably still be around, but they're going to make room now for the new ones. And not only that, but the new ones are slightly bigger because most of them now are coming with a riser built in or light-up marquee being built in. So the boxes are thicker. So they have a set amount of floor space. So they have to make room for it. And also, Arcade One Up was paid for those machines. So if Walmart wants to discount it, that's on Walmart. Now,
Yeah.
Arcade One Up is not discounting them. It's totally up to the stores to do that,
Right.
which is why my store up here, I was surprised when I got the Space Invaders and I jumped on it because they don't discount anything. In fact, I think they look at me and they go, "Hey, Glenn, I know you want this. How about 5 extra bucks?"
I haven't seen it here in my local Walmarts. They have not discounted any of them. So I've been
Right,
paying full price for it for every one of my
right.
cabinets. And
Right,
and
and to be honest, they're worth it. I really enjoy them. I do. And, the small complaints people have with the buttons or the controllers, well, I'm gonna be having ones out there, but you can go buy a true one, go on, Amazon or, eBay, get a Sanwa joystick.
mhm.
They're easy to add in. So, again, the cost of adding a joystick to one of these is still a lot less than buying a real arcade
Yep.
machine and working on it, by far.
And for those that are just tuning in here, we're going to get to showing you the arcade because Glenn actually has the Legends Arcade for ATGames. We're going to get to that. But we're just trying to cover some premise about what we're hoping to accomplish with doing a show like this, because I think it's something that's necessary. I see a lot of people that are commenting, and we're not just going to sit here and talk. We're going to kind of get into some of this stuff,
Yes.
um, but we want this to be more. This isn't a arcade one up show, and this isn't a at game show. This is a
Right, it's not a versus. It's not a one for the other. That's
right.
not what this is about at all.
This is we want to get down to the nitty gritty. We want to get Glenn's take as somebody that's been doing this for. I'm an enthusiast. I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer. I bought an arcade one up. I bought the Rampage cabinet. It was the first one. I turned to my wife and I'm like, I gotta buy this. This was my brother and I's favorite game growing up. We used to play it all the time on the Nintendo. We played it at Chuck E. Cheese when it was Showbiz Pizza. And that's what we did. And I said, my kids are gonna love this game. Well, now my daughter says that I have a problem because I keep buying these arcades and I keep modding
I
them, So
I I gotta say it's why I'm glad my son's not here because he's like, "Dad, there's no you gotta get rid of this stuff. This stuff's gotta go." I'm like, I said, "You're moving out, kid. This is my house."
that's right. That's right. And you know what? My son didn't complain because his birthday party this year, we had it here in the basement. Like I said, I've got 10 units, and uh, these kids came down and they were like, "Oh my gosh!" Because one of mine's modded. I got like 10,000 games on, it, and I've already taken flack for that. Like, why would you put 10,000 games on it? I love the reaction when people come into my basement and say, "Do you have this game?" And I say, "Yep, it's on there." And they get to play the game that they haven't played since they were a kid. That makes
Yep,
everything worth it. And
yep,
these kids played. We had pizza here. Who needs Chuck E. Cheese, man? We had everything here. They could jump from arcade to arcade and play their favorites or even new games that they've never played before. Uh, that's what it's all about. That's why I
It
bought all
is.
these, you know.
It is, and it's you having this younger generation play these simple games. The funny story is my son, he's 14 now. I'm trying to remember how many years ago it was. It was one of the Mario Brothers that come out, and we were playing
Hmm.
it on the Wii U, I think it was. And we're playing. We couldn't get past the level. We did it like 3 times, and you turned gold. And like, why did we turn gold? Oh, you can walk through the game now. I'm like, what? So if you fail 3 times, you can just walk through the level, and not get hurt. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I said, this is ridiculous. The whole point of these games is you practice until you get good enough. And if you're not good enough, guess what? Practice some more or
Yep.
move on. You don't get a free pass. I couldn't believe that. I said, turn that game off. I haven't played it since. That to me blew me away that Nintendo would make a game. And then if you can't pass 3 times, rather than practice like back in the day, you turn gold, just walk through.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no.
it's insane. I mean, I'm not even a golf fan, okay? And I bought the Golden Tee game. One of my buddies, in fact, he's coming over tonight. We're having a game night here. He's a big golf fan. So he actually taught me how to play this game because I had never played it in my life. And I actually
It's
have
a
to say
good
it's a
game.
fun game.
It is.
So all the
It
haters
is.
out there, if you're collecting these systems, if you're getting the ATGames system, if you're getting the arcade one-ups, buy it. It is worth it. It's a great fun game that you can play with people. It's easy in the sense of to control everything. It's not easy to play the game. It's easy, you know, you have to understand why you're doing some movements, understand what putters that you need to use and whatnot. But it's a fun game that you can play with people. And I think that, you know, that I think we need to get more back to that than talking about that game sucks. No, arcade one up sucks. No, I mean, there's too much of that. And rather than
Right.
like, let's talk about some of the cool mods people are doing. And it's great that both communities have embraced that, to be honest.
And that's a key thing. Like with anything, cars, when you start getting the modding community in there, you are driving. First of all, the company's driving their own sales, and then you're actually helping smaller guys make a slight extra living. I don't mention any names, but I know a couple people. You know, they're not doing well with their regular work, trying to pay bills and stuff like that. And these type of projects not only help out people like you and me with adding enhancements, but it's helping their families.
Yeah.
So I hate to go down that path, but it's just true. So
Yeah.
uh, if you don't like the cabinet for what it is, it's a good springboard into maybe making it something that you will like a little bit more. Because to be quite honest, again, these machines for what they are, I think are fantastic, and I really take my hat off to these companies for diving in, because for them this is a substantial investment. People have to think about that as well. When Arcade One came on the scene, I mean there was other companies making machines, generic machines for Raspberry Pi or PC, but they took a gamble on here with millions of dollars to manufacture, get licenses, talk to distributors, and so forth.
Hmm.
People don't see or understand that, and I want them to understand that because a lot comes behind the scenes. And trolls, to be honest, I'm going to say it to both companies. I was told by a friend of mine, Willie, over at Arcade USA, it's kind of a badge of honor when you get a troll because that means you're making a difference, you're making a
Yep.
mark, and
Yep.
those people are attacking you because they want that kind of recognition.
That's right.
So I take my hat off to all of those people who take that kind of pounding and go with it because I'm going to be honest, I find it very rare to find companies, upper level people get involved at our level.
Yeah.
They may have a marketing person deal with it, but in the forums I have here, both in the AtGames forum and the Arcade One forums, we have CEOs, we have marketing people, programmers. A lot of these people are in here listening, commenting, and Scott, I have to say personally, he's CEO of a company. He spends a lot of time in the forum and he addresses people's concerns. No one who does that. Who
Yeah.
at that level of a company will come in and say, oh, you know what? I'll take care of that, or I'll get it addressed, or
Hmm.
send me a private EM, and I'll take care of your issue. That is unheard of, and
Hmm.
people should take that for what it is. These guys don't have to do that, but they also care too. They care about the product, they care about the community, and they're spending time away from their families dealing with us
Yeah.
crazy people sometimes.
Yeah, and let's talk about the other elephant in the room. Brad Llewellyn actually said this. He just commented on this. He said So everyone's house is on Steven's block is losing or dimming their lights because of all the arcades pulling all this electricity. So let's talk about this a little bit because that was one of the issues with one of the real full size arcades, right? Is that
Oh yeah.
they consumed a lot of power because they're running
Oh yeah.
CRTs. But I bet you, and you correct me if I'm wrong because you're more the expert on this than I am, all 10 of my machines probably consume less power than one of
Oh yeah.
those original arcades that were
Oh
all
yeah.
out.
Oh yeah. The CRT monitor, the amp driving boards, the all the chips. I mean, you have like my Zaxxon. I got something like 24, sorry, 48 chips on it, capacitors. When you open the machine up, there's heat that blows you in the face. That heat's from all the electricity coming in being dissipated. So that's absolutely true. These machines are running on 12 volts. They technically could probably even run on less, but maybe the backlight on the monitors require that 12 volts. But the PCBs that run the machine is 5 volts. That's it. And you're running maybe 3 amps. So absolutely, much less.
Yeah, I
Now
want.
don't tell them to come to my house because my
Yeah,
house.
because you have.
I don't. I'm surprised. A fire here. I'm really shocked sometimes.
So we also want to do this with the community. If you guys are interested, you want to come on and talk to whoever we're talking to as the guest that week, or if Glenn and I are hosting this show and we bring on other people and you want to get a question asked, we do have a way that you're going to be able to do that. We're going to give you a link and you can join from your smartphone, you can join from your computer, as long as we do ask that you if you have a laptop or if you have a phone, put some earbuds in just so we don't get echo feedback coming back. That's one of the reasons that we wear in earbuds, because a lot of times if you're using a microphone and you're listening to it through a phone, it'll loop back through the microphone, and we just want to have this for posterity because we're recording this. We want to be able to bring you on, like if you have a specific question for Glenn or you have a specific question for whoever the guest is on with us. We kind of want to open that up because maybe you want Glenn's thoughts on something. So uh, we want to do that. We'll do that here in a little bit. We'll give you a link. We can actually screen it and bring people in. I think it'll be kind of fun. But Glenn, you have the cabinet. You have the
Yep.
ATGames cabinet.
Yep.
So let's take a look at it. Maybe give us,
Sure.
because I know you're gonna have to turn the camera. Let's get your first
Actually,
impressions of
do you
it.
hit the other camera? Do you still get the other camera? I think it's already facing it.
Oh, okay.
Is that still on there?
I believe so. Let's try it. Let's switch to this one, and let's see if we
Go.
can. There we go.
All right. Now,
There it
for
is.
everyone who looks between the two cameras, I am Glenn's retro show, so I am very blocky and low frame rate. I am from the '80s, so my videos got a. So I want to come over here and, um, I did receive this actually yesterday. So I've only had a couple hours with this machine already. But Retro Ralph and Cool Toy, I've already done a ton of things on here, which have showcased quite a few things. Mostly being able to load. You can see I'm running Zaxxon on here. Zaxxon is not on the Legends Ultimate. It's actually running off of this USB drive. It's fairly simple to do to put them on here, but I know for a fact they're working on something to make it even easier. But the cabinet itself's very nice. Now, I've said it a couple times before. I'll say it here again because I know people are asking it. The original prototype that was shown that Retro Ralph and Cool Toy saw at one of the trade shows was it? I'm not sure. That wasn't E3. I forgot what show they were at, but it did have my spinners in it. The Glenn's Retro Show spinners were in it, but they were went their own path and they still work very well. I mean, it looks like my spinner, but it's not. They are using an optical encoder, but they do work very well. The buttons feel pretty good. The joystick feels very good. For me, out of the entire thing, the trackball works. The trackball does work. It's just not the smoothest thing in the world. And coming from the medical industry, and I talked to Cool Toy about that, and he kind of laughed and he agreed. The trackball reminds me of the trackball that would use in an ultrasound machine. But the fact is, it works. I played it with Missile Command. I played it with Centipede. It definitely works. It's smooth. It's not like it grinds up. It's just not free floating
How
like
is it?
other ones.
How is it in relation to Golden Tee? Would that be a good example for those that have played that game?
Okay, best way I can give example, people may know it. This would remind me of the original arcade one-up trackball because
Oh,
it was just on plastic. As far
okay,
as I could tell, plastic rollers. But the Golden Tee, they put in actual ball bearings.
okay,
So
okay.
the Golden Tee one is a much more improved trackball. I haven't opened it up yet, but I'm going to guarantee there's no ball bearings on here. It's going to be the plastic
Okay.
wheel directly in a groove, almost like, like a T there. But it works. So far, it has not gone where I wanted it to go. So I'm just going to back out of here for a second because the
I,
MAME emulation that they put out right now doesn't have sound in a lot of the games yet. So I'm going to go back to the main
I
menu
got to
here.
ask you before you go into this. Okay, with that, can you play Marble Madness on that cabinet with that trackball? Because I've been dying to play either Super Monkey Ball or Marble Madness from the old Nintendo release. For those that remember, I would love to play it on that ATGames cabinet because I think it would be so fun playing with that roller ball. Is it possible, or is it already done?
It is definitely possible, and the limiting issue right now is the emulator that you have right now. You can only
Okay.
put 10 ROMs in here at the moment.
Okay.
And actually, I forgot about Marble Madness. I was actually playing Marble Madness on my 12-in-1 that I modded, but there's no reason why that would not work.
That would be
And
awesome.
I will definitely give that a try. It definitely worked. I think I have Centipede running in here, or Centipede's on the main machine. But I was playing Spy Hunter,
Oh, nice.
and the spinner worked and the trackball both worked for Spy Hunter. So I'll go into let's just go into Frogger because that's not built into the machine. So I'll click on that, and it'll just take a second for it to pop up, and it loads relatively quickly. You put in some coins. It works. It works very well. The joystick, there's no complaints. I, I'm gonna replace them only because I want to do a couple projects, but I don't want to talk about it just yet. But the joysticks in here feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you escape out of here, go back to the main thing here. Um, there's also the Sam's one comes with this blast, and I know there was a big controversy last year with my buddy John Hancock about they sent him a blast that actually had some arcade games on it. And when it was sent to Walmart, people purchased them. It was the NES, and there was a big issue with that. Now, I can't say for sure if that was by accident. I can't say for sure that it was something underhanded. I can't. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that this blast here absolutely does have the arcade ROMs on it.
Yeah,
So if I go over to that
let's talk about
one
that
right
for a
here,
second. Let's talk about,
there it
because
is.
there might be some folks in here that don't understand what the blast packs are and why you would want to add them to the console. So if you can kind of go into that and explain to some of the folks that are watching what
Absolutely.
those are.
So the blast packs here, it's if you can see it on the screen, I think you can.
Yep, we
It's
can
just
see
a
it.
USB HDMI dongle that just also plugs into USB port for power and also to link in the controls. But you don't need this machine for it. You can simply buy these blasts in the store, and it's supposed to plug right into the HDMI port of your television. And they come with a controller. Now I purchased their Pong one. I love Pong,
Mm-hmm.
so they had a wireless controller Pong, and I thought it worked very well. That's the only one I purchased because all the other ones that I saw at the time were either Atari ROMs or NES ROMs. But my understanding now is they're going to be releasing these versions here, which actually have arcade ROMs on it. So the whole point of the Blast is a small, inexpensive device you plug right into your TV like a Fire Stick or Google Chrome type of device. But when you plug it in, it's got the games and everything built into it, and you use a wireless controller on them, like a wireless joystick or wireless paddle, to go along with them. But they've included it with the Sam's device here, and these are definitely the arcade games. So I'll go over to say Pac-Man because everyone knows Pac-Man. Hit the button on it. Now, I know right now they're having some issues with Bandai Namco over Miss Pac-Man. So I don't know if that's going to affect this blast at all or future blast with the Namco name on it. If people don't know, AtGames acquired some licensing rights from the original creator, GNC Computer. They're the people who actually made Miss Pac-Man. It was not Namco,
Hmm.
and I guess they did it in a way that Namco didn't appreciate. So they're having some issues with that. But in any case, if you press the coins in here, let's put some coins in. I'll print the bottom up here a little bit. And here we go. Coin. Start the game. It is 100% the arcade game of Pac-Man. It's not a recreation. It is absolutely the arcade game. Now, the one thing I will say for these type of games, we lower the volume down for a second here. Go on, volume, go down. There we go. That games like Pac-Man require a 4-way directional joystick. I mean, this is an 8-way directional joystick. You can play it, but it's generally better with a 4-way. Now, the way these joysticks are designed these days, You can get restrictor plates. You can actually clip them on the bottom. You'd have to go into the bottom here to do it. But there is also, I'll show you real quick, there's something that they added, but it doesn't seem to be working in the Blast consoles right yet or the MAME emulated, but it works in their built-in games. So I'm going to go back out for a quick second here, quit, go down to C here. When you go back to the main menu, which I want to go back, I'll go back to the main menu. It's been a while since I've done this here. I want to quit. I'm not sure how I'm doing. I'm going to turn it off and back on, go back to the beginning. Only because the menu system is still a little wonky. They've improved it, but sometimes I don't know if I'm hitting the right buttons. I've only had it for a couple of hours, you know. So, but the boot up time is very quick. You can see I already brought up the Ultimate Legends logo right here. It probably takes 10 seconds for a complete boot up or less.
So while it's doing
But
that,
yes,
let's talk about. There's been a lot of videos out where people have gotten into the back end of it. Explain how this is kind of laid out. Is it based on Windows? Is there embedded chip in there? What's your take with this?
sure. Well, I can tell you for sure that Windows is not built into this machine. It's most likely a Linux distro. I can't say which one that it is. But I know that there was Retro Ralph done a video, but he was actually seeing the virtual machine he logged into when he was going to like Steam or stuff like that. This does not have Xeon processors in it. Doesn't have 250 gigabytes of like storage in it. It's not. It's basically a small board. You could think of almost like a Raspberry Pi, but maybe on steroids. But it's definitely not running a Windows or embedded operating system like that. It's going to be a Linux distro. Now, see, this it finally came back up here and go over to settings. They added this thing right here. So you have the Wi-Fi, all these different sign-ins right here. But if you go to joystick settings here, I thought this was interesting. You could set it to an 8-way, or you can lock it to a 4-way. But I'm assuming it's doing it only in software, and maybe it's ignoring any diagonal inputs
Oh,
when you're going in.
interesting.
They actually recommend it for burger time over here.
Hmm.
But this so far has not translated to any games you put in through MAME or through the Blast. But again, I'm sure that's just a firmware update. But I thought that was interesting
Well, wait,
that
wait.
that was set in there.
What about the restrictor plates on the bottom of the joysticks? Does that bear any effect on it? Even though you can change it to say the multi-directional, will the restrictor
Right.
plate restrict it?
Yeah. So right now it's an 8-way restrictor plate in there. So you have to physically put a 4-way. And if you put a 4-way restrictor plate on there, you're obviously going to be locked into that because you will not actually be able to
Right.
hit any of the angles on there. But this I thought was interesting that they're trying to take it on a software side of it. Although again, it's only working on the built-in game so far. I haven't been able to get it to work on the other ones yet. But I'm sure that's the beauty of the Wi-Fi is that it's only a firmware update away. Um, all the information you get in here, all of this information, it's pretty nice that they're adding all of that
Yeah.
to the machine.
So real quick, Joseph in the chat room, Joseph Shorts, he says, can you add external hard drives for external storage to the unit?
Well, as far as I know, that is possible, again, because of firmware updates. Right now, the extra storage is coming in on these USB thumb drives for adding MAME ROMs to it. So I would imagine it's only a matter of time for them to add, a larger capacity drive. I wouldn't imagine you want to use an extra hard disk. You probably want to buy a large flash drive, like 64 gig, 128
Hmm.
gig type on there. But the answer is, I'm going to probably say yes. They're doing it right now with using some of the MAME on here.
I think that would be interesting if you could. I know you said you didn't really want to put a big one on there. I know in my cabinet I have the games on my arcade one up. I have everything running on the Pi. It has a 64 gig. My image and everything's on that. But I have all the games on an external 256 flash drive. Not because I have that much in games. It's just that if I want to add more, as you know, PlayStation games, especially like you get into Final Fantasy, they're pretty large. So having that extra storage kind of helps.
It does. It does. And I definitely, from what I can tell, that's kind of where they're leading towards, they being able to add external storage for this. Now, all the electronics, everything's built into the control board right here. This joystick holds everything minus your speakers, which are up here, and your monitor. It's basically has a pass through for power and everything else that comes through the unit to come into here.
Hmm.
And I was talking to them months ago. I was kind of hoping to make interchangeable control panels. That was kind of like my take on it. I wanted to be able to take this thing out, drop in some other type of joystick or steering wheel components into it, but it was too late. They'd already designed it with that in here. So it might be one of our modding projects to relocate the electronics from within here into maybe the base down here. There's a lot of room down in the bottom, and then we can make interchangeable control panels for this thing.
Oh, that would be pretty sweet because from what I've seen from people putting these together, like Ralph and Doug, there's loose wires in the back. It's not where like the arcade one up where you have a ribbon cable that you attach. It's just like one cable. These you actually have like an HDMI, an Ethernet cable, USB cables, all these things. So people that aren't tech savvy, they might be a little bit kind of sketchy to try to constantly change those all the time.
Right, it's a little more advanced. You definitely have to connect an HDMI cable to go to your monitor, the power cable. There was an antenna cable to go to the antenna for the Wi-Fi. So there are more cables that come through into this device to connect it up, but they're very foolproof, if you
Okay.
will.
Okay.
Each port only looks one way. You can tell very easy what it is. So you can't put them in wrong. You shouldn't have a problem, honestly, with it putting them in. Of course, I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm saying that, but I can't see anyone. If you could plug a wall, a lamp into a wall switch, you shouldn't really have a problem seeing a connector and knowing which one it's going to plug into. I will say they included directions, and they were. I think the arcade one-up directions might be a little bit better as far as showing the layout of everything, but they were still good enough. And this machine took me. I timed it. It took me 16 minutes to put this one
Wow.
together from taking out of the box. So it's really not hard at all. Um, Now, other people mentioned that this was T-molding, this,
Hmm.
the chrome, and the chrome does look nice, but I'm going to say it is not T-molding. It is, it's glued on, but it is not T-molding. If you look at the wood, it doesn't have the slot in there, at least not that I could see in any of the parts. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But for me looking at it, it is not T-molding. It is glued on, but it still looks very, 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 very nice.
I
The artwork
I
on here also is already covered with a plastic, so it's already protected.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the silver. I think if I don't know, I'm just not a chrome person. I think it kind of reminds me of like a Chevy or something. Like a '57 Chevy with all that chrome on it.
I
But
always think of Cylons from Battlestar Galactica
yeah,
myself,
something
but
something like
I
that.
go for the chrome.
But I had a question too, and I'm sure it hasn't come up here in the chat yet. And Matt said, that's what I was going to ask about was the control deck and being able to swap for steering wheels and whatnot, which you answered. But what is the latency? I know you just got it, but have you played around with Steam? Because I know there's probably a lot of folks here in the chat that are, wanting to get on the arcade net. Is it worth the money? I know that's been a big debacle on that about paying the extra money. I don't see a problem with it. I pay for other services. But what's the latency? Like if you were going to play a game, say, not that you would play Call of Duty on it, but let's say if you were playing a multiplayer game like that where you're playing against other people, is there latency? I mean, have you seen anything? And I apologize if you haven't gotten to do anything like that, but what's your take?
No, it's a fair question, and I would say that's more be a good question for like Retro Ralph or Cool Toy. I don't play those type of games. I am too retro, so I don't go into Steam. So I really don't know per se. I can say though, even on the games that are in here, like Tron is a game that is on here, and there's latency with the audio. I mean, it's about a second to second and a half, but they said they're going to work on it. So those are things they can fix. But as far as playing games via Steam or bring your own games type of stuff, that would be up to the individual if they want to pay the money for something like that. But I couldn't answer about the latency itself. But I know that Cool Toy and the Retro Ralph have been kind of really testing that aspect of it. They might be a good question for them when we have them on the show.
Yeah, yeah, that might be. And the other thing, I know a lot of people, since you were talking about like how many ROMs that you can keep on the screen, it is a widescreen. I think what they say it was 22 and a half or 23 and a half.
I think it's a 23 or 24-inch monitor.
Okay.
And that doesn't bother me so much per se because when the games play, they'll letterbox them down.
Yeah.
But what I would like to see is an option to stretch it if you wanted to. Again, there's no reason not to have an option. You can either use it or not. I'd rather have an option there and not use it versus not have an option and want it.
Well,
They have
I thought that
scanline
would
options in there.
I thought it would be really cool, like if they for some of the games that like you showed Pac-Man, where you have all that dead space. It'd be nice to maybe have where you can put like custom backgrounds on it, or have a menu system there where you can access other like games that are up and down, as opposed to like completely full to kind of fill up that dead space.
I agree with you. What they do with some of the games, they'll put the marquee and the bezel around it to take up some of that space, which I'm kind of fine with. I actually like the idea if you have a screen that's so big that you're only using a 4.3 aspect ratio game, that it does show the monitor's artwork around it, because that's what you would have had in the arcade. But again, I think they'll all be great options to have. Just if you want it, you can select it. If you don't want it, you don't use it. I mean, that's
Right,
fine.
right. So Matt in the
But if I go over here, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say Matt in the chat room. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the chat room while you're doing this, so I can give you some feedback. And I don't know, Matt, if this is something Glenn can answer because neither of us work for ATGames, but I'm going to present it to him anyways. But Matt Scott in the chat room says, speaking of ArcadeNet, is there any plans of changing the pricing scheme? Normally, maybe including unlimited BYOG or bring your own game streaming uh, with the monthly fee. Sorry, the laptop's far away, so I'm trying to I'm trying to read it.
That
Do you know of anything of that?
I don't per se. I mean, I personally feel that the bring your own games for $1, like an hour, to me, uh, doesn't seem like a good value to me. You can play it in other platforms and even hook up a computer and go into HDMI port and do it that way. Um, I would say if Arcade at Games, sorry, was listening, when you buy this machine, maybe even include a year of that, or 6 months of it, to see if people really would find the value in paying that. But I personally think that the $1 an hour is excessive for that type of technology on this machine right now.
And I've even seen P Dub from P Dub's Loft. Him and I were on a conversation the other day, and one of the things that we saw with it too is like he was just sitting in the Steam stores when you first get the system,
Right.
and that's something that they need to take a look at to where the timer doesn't start until you actually go into the game, rather than it's triggering the second you get into Steam because his was counting down and Steam was taking forever to log in.
I agree with you there. That's why I'm saying this is something that's new, and I think that that particular technology that I understand they want to make more revenue streams. That they're a company, so they
Yeah, of
definitely want to
course.
do that.
Yeah.
But I think right now it's something that's very new on a very new platform, and right now their goal should be to get people to want the platform and use it, and then you know give them 3 months, 4 months, something like that, free, uh, to see if how well it works out. And I do think that what happened to him there should not have happened. Sitting on a menu should not be eating up time.
So the question that comes up too now, because this to me is more important than any arcade net and everything like that. And I don't know if the chat room feels the same way, but I'm going to ask this question: is with this is stability. I know with the arcade one up game systems, for the most part, they're stable. I mean, you don't have any crashing or issues where you have to reset the machine. At least I personally haven't with my cabs. Now I know there's the minority that you will have that with some games. From your experience from playing as early as it is, and they really pushed it out to get that release date, have you seen stability issues with this?
I have not. I've only been playing it for maybe an hour, hour and a half total. So I haven't really seen anything yet. I can say this: between the machine I had months ago, which was the one of the two prototypes that they had, it's a vast improvement over that. That one I did uh, find it not the most elegant system
Okay.
and how it operated, but it's a huge improvement between what I had before versus now, which is why I don't want to say shocked, but it's a vast improvement over the way it was over now. And the way it is right now, I'm enjoying it.
Oh, well, that's pretty good. So, with this, you let's go back to and I interrupted you, and I apologize. You were talking about the the console, the actual controller that it has the plastic integrated, and we know that Arcade One Up went through an issue where it would rub off the graphics, and then
Right.
they started giving out the for those that purchased it. They started giving out the control decks for free, the plastic overlays, and now the systems are coming incorporated with them. You alluded to this has it kind of built in.
Yeah, the artwork that's on here, the cover here has already got a plastic on it, so there shouldn't be any issues with this being rubbed off. You can put your hands on it, put a cup of Coca-Cola or coffee on here or beer. It shouldn't have any issue with this. It's already got a plastic coating on it.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know. Um, sorry, I'm looking at the chat room here. So Matt, I did see that you tried to call in, and I didn't see it right away because I didn't want to interrupt Glenn. If you want to try to call in again, we'll bring you on. If you want to call back in, we'll get you up on here and you can talk and ask your questions about it. Um, we don't want it just to be all one sided. So anybody, Brad, if you're still around in here, if you can post that link again for those that maybe want to try to call in from your phone or your computer. Maybe you have individual questions. I'm doing the best I can to ask Glenn any questions that he has for it that you have for him with it, but you're more than welcome to join in. Like I said, I haven't gotten my cabinet yet. I'm really looking forward to doing some more of the broadcasting stuff with it. But it's great to have somebody, and I know, like I said, I've been watching every YouTube video that's come out from guys doing it, just because I'm trying to see the potential. And I think Glenn, you would agree, there's a lot of potential with this box, even if you can't do things right now. And I think that's where it serves the market. Like I don't plan on stop buying arcade one ups because I'm buying this machine. Um,
Right.
I'm going to continue, especially if they bring out uh, consoles and arcades that I want. And the same way with this, I think it's ideal. Like I said, we've got two arcade one ups in our kids ministry room at the church, and the kids love it. They play it every Sunday. We have Pac-Man and Rampage, and they played every Sunday. I could see them getting something like this where you have all these games and it doesn't take up all the room. Obviously, you're not going to line up arcades in the room, but uh, that's where it comes in handy.
Exactly. Exactly. And as far as potential goes, I think right now, actually playing it, get my hands on it, I do see this has more potential. I think I thought of it had before. Again, it was just based on experience I've had with other products before. They were fine, but I thought the price point was very high. But after playing this for a while and seeing it and getting my hands on it, um, I'm my opinion's changing a little bit. And I think if people get their hands on it and try it, I think that they may as well, especially with all the enhancements that they've been giving to it. Being able
Yeah.
to now play your own, bring your own games literally without having to pay, the dollar an hour. You can. It's kind of a game changer in my opinion. Um, and I was actually surprised they came out with that
Hmm.
because they are trying to obviously use their service. And this, I think, at least from my point of view, kind of takes away from that service uh, to a point. But for people who want to just play those games, they're not paying that kind of fee. That's a huge change of a mindset at their side, I think.
I think that's the biggest complaint I've had since I've heard about this cabinet and all the other cabinets. People downing the cabinet before they've had their hands on it. It's like, how can you? It's kind of like the guy that gets this cabinet and he does a review 5 minutes after he booted it up and says this is fantastic, or he turns around and says this is complete and utter garbage. How do you give an honest, full-fledged review after playing something for 5 minutes? Like
Exactly.
when I do reviews for companies with broadcast equipment, with outdoor stuff that I do, and even the arcade one ups that I've done reviews for, I have a minimum of a 2 week policy. I want to play it. I want to do the ins and outs. I want to do everything I can physically within that time period, to see what it can do before I go on the internet and give my review, because it's not fair to the consumer or anybody else that doesn't have access to it. You know what I mean? To tell them it's
Right.
garbage or it's really good. If I say it's really good and they go and buy it and it's really garbage, I'm not doing them any service.
Right.
So,
And I could definitely say that this is definitely a lot better than I think people realize that it is. Um, Again, this was kind of unexpected when I got it that it's playing as well as it is, the monitor's good that it is, the way
mhm,
it's functioning. And again, the key feature is firmware upgrades, which is one of the Tesla's biggest things is okay, if something's not here right now, you can wake up tomorrow morning and have a new feature added. And I can see that the people over at Games are being pretty diligent right now about upgrading. But there's always that question in the back of your minds is, if it doesn't really take off, doesn't sell too well, will that, what's going to happen at the end point? But I think again, if that does happen, I don't think it's going to. But if it did happen where this machine didn't work out and it failed, being able to load your games on here or being able to go into HDMI, you can still have a value with this thing. regardless.
Well, you're going to have that with anything. I mean, you could go out and buy. Let's just go. Let's use this example. I was one of the guys that pre-ordered the Sega Dreamcast back when it first came out. Right? I was
I
so
really
hyped,
miss that, man.
dude.
Oh, I
I was
miss that machine.
so hyped for that system. I subscribed to the magazine. I bought anything and everything that had to do with Dreamcast. I had at one point I had every game. I pre-ordered every game. That was before I became an adult and actually had bills. Um, but I pre-ordered every game, and within a year, 6 months to a year, they killed it. It's just that's the price that you pay sometimes for being an
Yep.
early adopter. But you know what? To this day, I got rid of the console back then because I was a kid and I didn't know anything. But I recently just bought the console again because it was a
Good
great
man.
console. And my son, you know what my son says? Dad, why did they ever kill this system? This is a great system. I'm like, we've all been asking that question
Yeah.
for the last 20 years,
Well, the funny thing is that the Dreamcast today, if you played it, it holds up fairly well. I mean, the graphics and everything in that machine, this many years, you're talking 1999, 2019, the machine still holds up well. And unfortunately, the community that loved it was helping its demise. Pirating was one of the biggest things that killed that
Yeah.
Dreamcast. Um, and the fact that it didn't play DVDs. If the Dreamcast out of the box had played DVDs like a PS2, it would have saved Sega and it would have gone a long way. But you bring up another valid point, or I'm going to bring up another valid point, is that Sega uh, burned a lot of people, but not in a way that maybe I'm coming across talking about it. They'd come out with the Genesis, the Sega CD, 32X, the Nomad, Game Gear, the Saturn. They had just too many CDX. They had just so many products on the market
Yep.
that they didn't support them well enough. Like, what really turned me off is I got the Sega CD because I was huge into it. The Sega CD added a lot of features people don't even know, like an extra processor, extra sound channels, rotation and zoom effects like the Super Nintendo had and the Atari Lynx, but they never used it. They did full motion video games, and they were garbage. So in 32X actually wasn't too bad, but then the Saturn was too close to it, and that's what burned a lot of people. They bought these things, they got burned, and they also didn't really embrace the Dreamcast. And that's so sad because that machine was so incredible for its time. Even if it came out today, I mean, it would still be a hit. I think it was a really. I wish they would come out with a Dreamcast Mini.
I,
Uh,
I no, I agree, but I think a lot of it was before its time. I mean, the graphics on it are very comparable to some of the graphics of systems that, dare I say, PlayStation 3. I mean, it's pretty close on certain games. Um,
right.
I think it was just before its time, and people were just like scared of the price tag, that sticker shock, and maybe that's why I don't know, but I I really love that system. That was one of my favorite systems. Um, Obviously, besides your normal retro Nintendos, Sega Genesis, even the Master System, those were some of
Right.
my favorite systems. So I think the elephant in the room too, and I've seen this in forums, so we can kind of go through this. I've seen a lot of people complaining at the marquee graphics on the front of the kick panel, the graphics on the side, and it's like, you know what? Most of the people, and I think AtGames was smart with this. I think they were smart by just keeping it standard with a few of their classic titles that they're trying to grab people's attention. Because I think that even the side art, I think that if they would have went all out and just said, you know what, we're not going to put any art on this. We're just going to make a solid black cabinet. You would have people complaining about that. So doing something simple like this, and then people decide, well, maybe I'll add, my own graphics to it, or I'll add my favorite, stickers to it. Even I've seen people doing that. That's
Right.
it's
And
it's
that's the beauty of the community that we're in,
yeah.
because you will have companies. I already know for a fact that At Games is willing to like give the dimensions out to the art designers and graphic designers to do that. I think originally, and I don't know how true this was, that they were talking about the sides were could be like magnetic and you can just like slap on different side artwork. That would have been a really, actually really neat idea, to be quite honest. And I know that Tyler Goodman, who runs Arcade Graphics, he does magnetic type of decals, but it's not. It's just a regular wood on the side. But I know that Joe Sobo, hope I said his name right. He does graphics, and Arcade Graphics obviously does it as well. They are already working on adding enhancements. Now, I have no problem with the graphics that are on here, but of
Yeah.
course, I haven't seen what they're going to come out with. Once I see what they come out with, I'm probably going to change my mind. I said it before, I say it again. This is the Swiss Army knife of machines. If you're looking for that gaming experience of a particular machine, like the Mortal Kombat machine or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles machine, you won't get that same experience here. Maybe you could play it on here,
Yeah.
but you're not going to have the cabinet look. It's a very different experience between the two companies. And for me and for a lot of other people, there's room for both. It really just depends on competition is good. When you have other people competing in the marketplace, that only drives innovation and it only drives people to make their stuff that much better. And I think that's a good thing.
So we have, hopefully we have the audio from him. We're going to get him on here. We've got Matt Scott joining us, and Matt, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So Matt, welcome. Thanks for joining us here. And do you have any questions for Glenn, or do you have just comments that you want to make about the Legends Arcade? What's your take?
I think it's a good step in the right direction. I think it's a good multi-cade. From what everyone's been saying about the quality, it sounds like it's pretty decent and it's got some good functions to it. Because with Arcade One Up, they have a whole slew of games that they can pick from to keep building cabinets and bring them out. But if you've got this great all-in-one cabinet, I mean, is it just pretty much you're doing peripherals from here on out? Is that pretty much the extent of that games? Is that their plan?
That's a good question, Glenn.
It would
What's your
be,
thoughts on that?
well, it'd be total conjecture on my part. But that's what I'm saying. There are very different styles with the arcade one-ups. They're going to come out with new licenses. They'll come out with machines and artworks, and people are going to buy them to have that particular machine. With the Legends Ultimate here, they'll obviously spend the money on the actual machine. I'm assuming they make money. They're not losing money on this machine. And then at that point, I think it will be part of the bring your games that revenue that would come in from that. I just wish they would revise the fees on it, because I do think for us gamers here, it's a hobby and it's a joy, but this is not playing like we talked about before, playing a PS4 version of Call of Duty. We have like 50 guys coming in to play Modern Warfare or something like that. This is you know it's just, I think that it might be some accessories they'll come out with, and the machine itself. And I'm sure they'll have other models of other things coming down the pike. But it's a very different revenue stream between the two companies. So I understand what he's saying, but it's total conjecture on my part how they're going to continue revenue after the fact. This thing plays really, really nice. Maybe they'll make a tabletop version as well. I don't know. But they definitely said they were going to come out with something, and everyone in the community was like, it's not. It's going to be trash. It's going to be garbage. And Cool Toys said it, so it's not just coming from me. Retro Ralph has said it, and I'm saying it that it's not a bad machine in any way, shape, or form. It's actually pretty good, and the features they're adding since I picked it up yesterday, I got a firmware update. It's just been really, really good, and that to me says a lot about a company that's standing behind it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, again, it goes back to what we said, Matt, is that too many people have knocked this thing without even getting their hands on it first, and I don't think that's fair. Maybe ATGames has had a bad reputation in the past. I'll be honest, I'm not as hardcore as some of these guys that I've seen in the forums. Like I have the retro Sega from them ATGames. I really haven't had any problems with it. I haven't any complaints with it. So I mean, I guess it really gets down to what you said, Glenn, earlier, like about the purist, right? You're gonna have those fanboys that are just they're gonna have a problem with everything unless it's 100% pure, if that makes sense.
Right, right, and that's
So
not what either of these are supposed to be.
right,
These are ways to relive something and have fun. To be
yes,
honest, when you buy an old arcade machine, it's like another marriage. It's got to be taken care of. It's got to be treated right. It's a money pit to some extent. They got to buy a new pair of shoes, whatever. These are not the case. And again, both companies definitely Arcade One Up. I mean, ATGames just came out with it, so I'm assuming they are. But the Arcade One Up has stood behind their products. They've addressed issues as they come up the pipe. They never shied away from any of it. So that's important. That's really important. So I am always about the thing of give them a chance and let them prove themselves right or wrong. I think that Scott Backrack of Arcade One Up has proved himself. He said he was going to improve quality, he was going to improve the machines, improve support. Now, of course, some people still say it's not enough, but I think for the most part, people have seen the change, and I've met them this past week. I met the crew there, and they're dedicated people. You know, they believe in the product. They believe in making something inexpensive yet good for people purchasing their products, and I believe them. And I've been talking also with the people over at Games, and I think that they honestly are trying to do the right thing. If there's been issues in the past, that may haunt them for a little while, and I don't think everyone has that same feeling. I will say that their flashbacks. You got to take them for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time where Sega themselves was with them, and they were going to have them do their mini, and the last minute they pulled out and made their own. And a lot of people say, "Well, there's the reason right there." Well, that's fine. It's Sega's property, and they wanted to do it themselves. I'm kind of glad that they did. They shouldn't always have someone else doing their work, their legacy. This machine here is it's a nice machine, and it's just someone's got to try it for themselves. I'm hoping like Walmart and Costco will have one set up you can sit on and play for a few minutes, because I think that I think once you get your hands on it for a little bit, you'll find out it's a nice little machine, or a nice big machine actually.
So Matt said something earlier. He said, "What do you think? What's next?" Right. So we'll put this out there. What do you guys think of this? And I know Retro Ralph has commented on a thread where I talked about this and other people. What about virtual pinball? Let's make a budget virtual pinball machine that's like a sub $500-600, because darn well you go out there looking for a pinball machine, you're spending $3,000 at least minimum.
Easy.
Yeah, that's right, minimal. And even a virtual pinball, and I get it, there's a lot involved, and Ralph kind of alluded to this in the post. It may not be something that they can do, but I'm sure with innovation out there, there's ways that they can do it. Again, keeping the price point low. You may not get that top-notch LCD on it or that top-notch wooden base with it, but I think it could be done. But that would be something I'd like to see next. Some of these guys tackle. I think that would be. I think that'd be fun.
I agree. I've been virtual pinball has been a project I've been working on forever, and the issue with pinball, surprisingly, is it actually requires a lot of horsepower. It's really surprising that a pinball machine, which predates, it predates arcade machines, but pinball machines actually require a lot of horsepower. And so the issue is not so much the screen or building the wood for it. It's really going to come down to putting a real processor in there with a GPU to handle it. Now you can absolutely recreate a pinball with less realistic effects and use a Raspberry Pi or something along those lines. But if you're going to get a pinball machine, that's not going to be what you're looking for. You're going to want to have those realistic ball effects and the way it bounces around. So that's the biggest hurdle. Until AMD actually is making these chips now really powerful with GPUs built in, but they're still $100 alone. So I couldn't see anyone building a virtual pinball machine for honestly lower than $1,000.
Wow.
Maybe they could, but that's my guess. But still better than $3,000 or $4,000 I've seen them going for.
Yeah.
But again, you can make them cheaper, but you're going to sacrifice the pinball mechanics as a whole.
Well, it was a thought. We could dream, right?
We can.
Do you have any other questions for him, Matt?
No, I think that's it. I think you guys are doing a great job. Thanks for having me on.
Oh,
pleasure, Matt. Thanks for calling in.
Absolutely. This is something we want to kind of do. We'll probably get into some gameplay in future episodes, and we just kind of want to throw it out there and see what the community thought. We have a way to bring in the games, and like I said, if I get the ATGames system, in the mail here, I'll be able to capture the screen so we can get it where the camera's not shooting.
If you can get it in the mail itself, that'd be amazing.
Well, hey, stranger things have happened, right?
Fit your mailbox. That's pretty good.
So what do you think, before we let you go, what do you think of a show like this where we can bring on the different experts in the field? Because obviously I'm more of like just I do this kind of stuff where I'm more the broadcaster, but I have 10 arcade one-ups, and I do it more for fun. I'm not really like these guys really hardcore into it, but um, doing a show, I've always wanted to do this so I can learn as well. I mean, I've modded a few. Um, what's your take? A show like this, bringing on guys like Cool Toy and Retro Ralph and some of the other ones, and Glenn and I kind of talking to them about this type of stuff, being completely unbiased about the products and just kind of talking to the guys, the community.
Yeah, I think it's a great show. I think it's a great idea because it allows us to get, feedback and just different opinions about different products that are out there. Something that, like you said, no bias, no trying to sell one thing or the other. It's just gamers getting together and having a good time.
Yeah, I think that, and even having you guys call in, because like I said, it's not all the time you get to talk to one of these guys. Maybe you've been seeing they're doing something and you kind of want more information. It's a great way, I think, to connect and do it in a high quality manner. And everybody has a good time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and Glenn's he can't help himself. He's over there playing games and everything over there. Look at him.
There's so many to try. That's the beautiful thing. I've never heard of this game before. I'm gonna probably play a couple rounds of this one here, but that's what it's all about. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us. But that I agree with what you said. It really should just be gamers just talking about the games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, do you have a channel or anything that you want to, kind of put out there? We're not one of those guys that are going to say, don't promote your stuff, because we definitely want to promote other people that are doing similar. I watch everything. So, if you've got something out there you want to share with everybody, feel free.
No, I'm just a amateur gamer. Love to hang out and listen to you guys.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you jumping in here, and
Absolutely.
Anybody else out there, if you want to jump in, it was great. We had Matt here, believe it or not, all the way from Germany. He jumped in here and talking to Glenn and I, and Glenn, I think you're catching the broadcast bug here. I think you're kind of
actually, back
this.
in the day, I actually was a radio DJ for a radio station up in Peekskill, New York. So I have some broadcasting experience, but it was a while ago.
So, and I didn't realize this. I apologize, but and I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm just going to say the first name. But Ping is in the chat room. Apparently, he's the CEO and founder of ATGames, so he's been communicating with folks.
Yes, he goes by PK.
PK, okay. So he is in the chat room. I'm glad, because he's been answering some of the questions people have been asking about 4-player control panels and steering wheels. So thank you for interacting and giving them this feedback for some of these questions, because they were asking ones that we were kind of like, we don't work there, so we can't tell you. We don't know. But if you want to join in, if you want to call in, you can do it from your phone. You can do it from Brad Llewellyn will post a link in there if you want to come on here and just, hey, you can talk about your product. That's
Ask
what
away.
we're doing. Jump in.
Yep.
Listen, we want it to be as completely transparent and unbiased as we are, but you're the maker of the product, so it's it's great if you want to jump in and kind of give your 2 cents on it.
Actually, I'm seeing a comment here from Stephen Cruz. If I'm saying his last name right. He said to install the bottom of the cabinet he found difficult compared to Arcade 1-Up. And I'll agree with him a little bit there if you're doing it by yourself. The left and right side, the way you have to get them in there was a little difficult. I had to kind of lean on my shoulder. But if you have someone else with you, it would definitely be easier. I actually found it to be the mechanism to lock them in place or metal. And I actually like that. They kind of groove into each other and they screw in. But I do agree with what he's saying, that initially, that first couple of panels to get started, if you had someone to help you to hold it, it would be helpful. If you're by yourself, I agree, it's a little more difficult. But again, so you should get your kids to give you a hand, or like, I guess you can't use your wife. You're probably hiding it from her. But
you know what?
But I do agree that initial step is a little harder just to get that initial screws in. But once you get that first 2 in, you're good.
I've had that issue with the Arcade 1-Up monitors in some instances, especially on the newer model cabinets, because of the way the speakers don't connect to the monitor. Like, you have to connect it, and then it's extra weight, and it wants to topple.
Right.
So I've been kind of building them in my garage. I put a table down, and then I take the plastic that comes with the side panels, And what I've been doing is I've been kind of laying that down on the table so it doesn't scratch, and I prop up the monitor against one of the walls in the garage and screw it together. The only reason I do it in there is so I don't have to carry the boxes up and down the stairs. I can just do it in the garage, throw them out, and then just carry
Right.
the arcade downstairs.
Right.
And it's heated.
You could be like the wife is with shoes. This old thing, I've had this machine. It was in the garage the whole time. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? I didn't buy this.
Most of the time, she actually, believe it or not, she's on board. I can't complain. She's on board when I get these cabinets. But now she's to the point where, like, where are you going to put them? I'm like, we'll find room. We'll make it work. And I've got a pretty big studio/arcade room here. Those of you that have seen it on Facebook and if you look at my profile, because I don't have them all turned on right now because I didn't want the background noise coming through. But if you look at my cover image, you can see my setup here on the other side of me where I'm at with the arcades. But Glenn, I know there's a lot of wives out there that are probably just shaking their head like, no, you're not bringing that into this. And
Oh yes.
you asked earlier about the cameras that I'm using. The guy, his dad owns the company PTZ Optics, makes the cameras that I'm using. I got him into this, right? So he started getting the arcade one-ups. I showed him about modding it, and now he's looking at the Legends cabinet, was asking me what I thought about it. And he's got him, and he's like, man, he's like, this is awesome. He's like, I get to relive my childhood and get my kids involved with it and do all this stuff. But he's like, at least I have a room dedicated. He said, I don't know what the guys are doing that don't have a room dedicated because their wives have got to be like mad. Like, where do you put these things, right? So
That's exactly the case. But actually, if I know a couple people, the wives actually, like Centipede, Pac-Man, so they're actually into it too. But as a whole, I can see some marriages breaking up.
Yeah, that's kind of. I went all out, man. I added like retro lighting in here just to kind of give it that. Somebody actually commented, and people ripped them up, and I kind of chuckled, but I also kind of was like, really? They said it looks like a dive bar down here, and I've never gone to bars. I was never a big drinker going out there, but they said my arcade area looks like a dive bar. So I kind of chuckled because I looked it up online what a dive bar would look like, and I was like, I could see that. I could see kind of, where they get that because I have the wood paneling and things. But hey, it's all about making it your own, right? You're making your arcade the way you wanted it. I mean,
right.
10 years ago, would you have thought you would have had an arcade in your basement or spare room?
No. But the best thing you can just tell your wife is, do you want me going to a bar to play these games? You never know when I'm going to meet in a bar. Here, I'm home. You know where I am. Arcade one-up in that game to saving your marriage.
There you go. And it's you spend the money down to buy the game systems, right? And it's like I tell my kids, I don't have to go to Chuck E. Cheese anymore. You just play right here.
Exactly right.
And what's funny is my in-laws, they own a pizza shop, so we don't even have to pay for pizza. So we're set, right? So if anybody wants to come over here and play, you'll get pizza and you'll have the arcades. In fact, that's what we're doing tonight later on. So anything else, Glenn, on this system that you want to kind of make known? It does have the light up marquee, and from some of the installation videos that I've seen with Doug and Ralph, he did show that it looks pretty easy to change out the speakers if people really want to go nuts. I haven't had any of my other arcades that I've said, man, I really like to change out these speakers. I mean, it does what they're doing. We're not trying to record audio with these things. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, how is the marquee? I mean, is the audio with the speakers, are they pretty decent?
The marquee is nice. It's definitely something that it's generic, obviously. It's the name of the machine, the Legends Ultimate. So I would definitely like to change it out personally with something else, but I have no idea what. We'll see what Tyler Goodwin, kind of come up with at that point. But the lighting on it is very even. I know Retro Ralph had taken the back panel off and the LEDs right in the middle there, and it does a really good job. The speakers themselves, they're adequate. I mean, they're fine. There's probably other speakers you could add in there. I think Cool Toy had shown that there were already pre-drilled holes a little bit bigger, and he was going to put different speakers in. But for me, the speakers themselves are fine. I wouldn't modify them. I do kind of wish the way, like they're very exposed. They're right here and right here, which is kind of good. They're facing you. But I almost would have liked that to come out further and have them going, maybe blasting down.
I agree.
Again, just a personal preference. But that's the modding community is all here for.
No, I kind of agree with that. That was something that I noticed right away when they made that. I thought, if I had
It
it,
reminds me of Radio Shack. When I used to go to Radio Shack, and all the speaker walls, the speakers are facing you. That's what it reminds me of.
it reminds me of some of the, if you remember, and when I used to go down to the shore, a lot of your skate or die type arcades had the speakers like that, and they made like the marquee like a boombox.
Right. Yeah.
And they kind of tipped the speakers up a little bit to make the speakers look like they were a boombox. And okay, I get it, but I would agree with you on that. I think that they should come down a little bit. You could probably even reduce the height of it a little bit by doing so. And maybe like I said, it might have been intentional.
Well, I think it was intentional because I think they wanted it to be as tall as it is, so they had to kind of fill up that area. Again, I'm not sure what they could really have done with it per se, but like I said, it's not horrible. It's just that it just reminds you of someone just kind of didn't have another spot for them and kind of just slapped them there. That's how they look to me anyway.
So somebody else, Stephen Kraus in the chat room, and I apologize if I'm butchering your last name. Why is the screen widescreen and not 4:3? And that is a great question to ask. Not that I'm complaining about it, but Glenn, I mean, we kind of alluded to this maybe in pre-show that the idea was maybe down the road to hook up your PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One that you could play with
a lot of those games are HD, HD games, and they're widescreen. So if you had a 4.3 and then you put your PS3 or PS5 or PS50, whatever comes out in the future, you young kids with your new fangled machines, if you had a 4.3-inch screen, those widescreen games now be crushed down to small sizes. So it actually made better sense to have a widescreen so you can plug in your advanced game systems. And then you can see right here, Millipede going on, and they put some artwork on both sides.
Yeah.
So again, this is a Swiss Army knife type of machine. It's got to kind of do everything.
So here's something that I was planning on doing. Again, I was talking to the guy with PTZ Optics, and I have a little joystick that I can control my PTZ cameras with, and they make a lot of different APIs, which a lot of these are just using USB encoders anyways. What I wanted to do with this system, and I've talked about doing this, I've seen a lot of people with the Arcade 1-Ups putting a mini fridge in the bottom. I want to take the front off of that thing, maybe get a custom graphic, maybe make a custom door to magnetic so it opens and closes, and I want to put rack rails in that thing. And I want to take my consoles, like my Xbox One, my PS4, and any of the other retro consoles that I have, and do some ingenuity with it, and make that thing where you open it up and you got a rack of gear in there that controls different things in your man cave, so to speak. Because you have all that open space underneath. Why not put it to use, right? So put your consoles in there to where they're rack mountable. And then also to be able to control PTZ cameras with it. I think it would be pretty cool for places like schools and things like that that maybe don't have a lot of room, but they could do multiple things with this thing.
And actually, real quick, PK even said in the chat that the Bring Your Own games, all modern games, are 16.9. So that's another reason why they went with a widescreen display.
Which makes sense. I mean, because everything on Steam for the most part is going to be widescreen, even if they're doing like what you're showing there, where you have the graphic on the side. I'm glad they at least did the graphic and not have this just dead space there, right?
Well, some games actually do, so I'm kind of hoping as they bring out enhancements that'll change. But for the most part, they have it. But there are some that will just have black around the borders. I would like to see as an option, if you wanted to, is to stretch. Just because it just, if you wanted to fill up every inch of screen, it would be nice to have that option. But see, his Missile Command, and they did put some artwork on the sides. So they're trying to make it look like, the bezel around the monitor.
Yeah.
So that's good they did that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like the stretching. I know you're. I guess that's just the broadcast side of me because that would just look awful.
Right.
But I agree with you having that option. But you know what, Glenn, would be cool is just like they're allowing you to bring your own ROMs and things. What about giving you a place where you could upload your own artwork that you wanted to do a frame? Like maybe they give you a template for Photoshop or whatever program that you have. GIMP is a free program that you could do, and make your own custom bezel that you wanted to do for the game. So that way it's not all on their plate to do it. I would be totally down with that. Making and then the community could start sharing these, like, oh, you got Missile Command, you need artwork, here it is, and you download a zip file. It'd be a great way to engage the community with it.
Right, and they just heard you say that, so hopefully that's something they could add on. I do know when you go to the USB stick and load your own ROMs, you can add your own artwork that way.
Right.
So I'm sure there's a way that could be done, but it would probably be something you have to add to the system.
Yeah, and I think if they can do that for the ROMs, why not do it for the bezel, right? So,
right,
this way it takes a lot of the drive off of them, and like I said, to create something like that, especially if there's a template, would take no time at all. And I've done it. I create graphics even for I have a local. I use Tyler for some stuff, but I have a local graphics vinyl place that does it, that I can get it really cheap, and so in fact, I'm doing some kick plate graphics and riser graphics from him right now that I've kind of put together, and he's going to print out for me. So, it would be nothing at all to kind of whip some of them things up and throw them in the community for them to use. It's not
right, and right, and Tyler does really nice graphic artwork on there. So maybe he can make some of the just images to put in for the bezels in there.
right.
But again, this thing's only been in the market for about a week.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
we got to see where it really goes.
Yeah, and please, if they're watching or if they've watched it, we're not slamming it, and we don't want people to think that we're slamming it. These are just suggestions that we're thinking of it and showing it.
Exactly.
Everything takes time. Rome wasn't built overnight, and
right. Or was it? I don't know. I wasn't there.
I think it's awesome that they're at least willing to listen to the community and guys that are doing this. But I'm really impressed at just looking at your arcade about it. Doesn't, even though it's full size, they really did a fantastic job to scale that down to where it's full size, but you're not taking up 90% of your room. I can't get over that.
Right. It's tall, but it's narrow as far as it's not coming out away from the wall. I don't think any further than other like the arcade one-ups. I don't think it's coming out any further than that. But it is wider. In fact, the shipping box, I was taking a look at the the box that had come in. It would take 4 arcade one-up flat boxes to equal how thick it is. So that gives you an idea of how much larger the shipping box is that it comes in.
So don't get your old Chevette out and go to Walmart or Sam's Club and think you're going to throw it in the back, because it ain't going to work.
No, it is not. It is not.
So as far as, you mentioned about the angle of the speakers. Let's talk a little bit about the angle of the monitor, because I know this has been a big complaint in the Arcade 1-Up community. They've complained about the angle, and a lot of guys have been modding them. They've been filling in the built-in routed track for the monitor. Some guys went they went crazy and bondoed it and spray painted it and went nuts. But the newer cabinets like Golden Tee, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Marvel cabinets, they've recessed the screen back just a little bit. It's not a lot. It's definitely an improvement. What's your take on, for those that maybe this concerns them, especially guys like me that are 6'2"?
Right.
The recessed screen, as you can see, it is slanted back. Is it enough? Is it too much? Is it something that's just right?
Well, for me, I'm only 5'8", so you got a couple inches on me, and the screen is fine for me. I wouldn't mind it being a little bit higher, maybe an inch or two, but it's not like horrible, because you're standing back. I mean, if you're putting your body right up against the control panel, it's still pretty good. I don't know if you can see me in the shot there.
Yep, we got you.
I'm right up against it right now, and it's okay. But as you're standing back a little bit, because you're gonna be standing more like this in a comfortable distance. To me, at 5'8", that's the exact right spot. Now, again, if you want something taller, you can, I don't want to say build a riser per se, but you can put it up on, legs or wheels if you need to move it around. Again, that's going to be a personal preference to people if it's bad or not. It wouldn't be a horrible idea to have multiple slots on the side to change the angle of the monitor. Maybe that's something that could be done later on down the road.
Yeah.
But this whole section right here, this from here, the control panel all the way up to the top, this comes as one piece. This is all pre-assembled. your control panel's pre-assembled. All you're really building is the lower 4 panels on the bottom. The rest of it just slides on top. And one thing I want to note that I thought was a kind of a nice touch is that the screws that they use on the sides are black screws.
Oh, nice.
So that is kind of nice. But the issue is like the routing out for the holes is wood colored. So I would take a black magic marker and just go in the wood hole area. But the screws themselves are already black.
Now, how is it as far as stability goes? You know, because obviously the side panels are two pieces. Getting like any kind of sway left or right, like again, I'm thinking because I got
Nothing.
kids. It's pretty
Yep,
solid.
it is. It is very solid. You know
Wow.
how well it comes across there. It's definitely solid. It's not wood. It's the same type of like a particle board, but it's solid. The front panel is probably the thinnest on here.
Yeah.
And it is much bigger than the Arcade 1-Ups one, so there's more flex on it. There's no support behind it. So if you put too much pressure on this, I could see this breaking. But
Yeah.
everything else on here, I would not see it. It is very solid throughout the rest of the unit.
I don't think you'll have a problem so much with the front. I just think it because, you know, when you're playing an arcade, everybody wants to hang on it. They put their hand up the top, you know, kind of looking over your
Right.
shoulder.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
I guess that was my
Nope.
concern. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? When you're standing next to your
solid.
buddy, if you're playing two players
Yep.
and the guy's yelling, I got next, and he's kind of holding on to the top of your, just exactly the way
Yep.
you're doing it right there.
Well, he better have quarters on here if he's playing next.
Yeah,
No
that's
quarters,
right.
he ain't playing.
So that was one of the things that I think, you know, maybe would concern people with it. But all in all, as far as you know, like you said, you just got it. All in all, you know, you said earlier on, just to kind of put a bottle cap on this, you're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I am. I definitely think, you know, this like the menu interface. I like to see this improved a little bit. It's very reminiscent of their other ways of doing the interface and how the joystick goes around. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it so far. I don't have anything I could say that I didn't really like, other than I said the trackball was probably the weakest out of all the controls on here. But even that is still adequate. I mean, it gets the job done. I was really impressed with the spinners. Of course, I wish they used my spinners, obviously, but I can't fault them on these spinners. They feel really good, and they're doing the job they're supposed to do. The joysticks feel pretty good. It's just now see what the modding community can really start making out of this thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time. You know, that's going to happen, whether, you know, because a lot of people just aren't satisfied with anything. You could give them everything on their list, and they're still going to find a reason to mod it. So,
Of course.
you're going to have that. I guess, you know, what I guess the interface, until I play around with it, I can't really give it, but I think it would be cool just to be able to change the background of it. That was something I was working with P-Dub on. I was on a video chat. Even if they didn't change the whole interface, just giving people the ability, especially guys like you who do a complete show where I'm broad, I do everything. I'd still put like the Tech Buzz stuff, but to put like Glen's retro show as the background of it, like when you're doing videos, I think that would be kind of cool, you know, to do something like that.
I agree. I think everyone should have Glen's retro show on the back. I totally agree. That should be in there.
No, you know, having the ability to customize it. See, there you go. You could put that on the marquee. You could put Glen's retro show.
Not a bad idea. Now, here's one thing I'm looking at right here. This is a ColecoVision game right here, right now, and I'm not quite sure how you actually would select. Oh, there we go. I don't know how I did that, but okay. Can I press this on here?
So what menu are you in right now?
This is playing Frenzy. It's a ColecoVision game on here, and I'm not quite sure. Let's go back to the game. See, that's what I'm saying. Some of the menus are missing some of these features, let you know what you're going to be. Oh, I guess I picked it. Now, how do I get rid of that? Oh, there we go. Ah! There we go. So now we can play the game. So stuff like that there's got to be a better way of showing you how you're going to pick. You know, for ColecoVision, you have to use a numeric keypad. How you're going to get that going. But those are things that can all be fixed with an update. So that's why I'm not too concerned about it.
Let's
get the sound up right here a little bit. Good old 1982 sound effects.
There you go.
Oh!
I still.
I never said I was I never said it was good. I just said I'm a retro gamer.
No, I still say like I'm looking forward to Arcade 1-Up bringing out the Burger Time cabinet. I was so thrilled when I saw that they changed the Karate Champ to that because I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna buy that cabinet, and then the artwork for Burger Time just kind of
Yeah,
sold me.
and that's again, the showing how they listen to the community because um, that Karate Champ was a favorite of Scott's, so that's why he kind of picked that artwork. But when he heard that everyone really wanted Burger Time, that they felt that that was the machine it should be, the machine got basically pulled back
Yep.
to be redesigned to have Burger Time on there. That's why it's kind of been delayed. It's as far as I know still coming out.
Yeah.
But he listened to the community. He realized that that's the game that people want more than anything, and so that's what he's going to come out with.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a big Karate Champ fan. That's why I wasn't gonna buy the system. And with having all these and then a modded one, and then getting the getting the Legends Arcade, like why would I do that? But it's like, okay, if it's Burger Time, well, yeah, that's one of my favorite games. I would absolutely do that. That's just like it's a no-brainer, right?
Exactly.
So okay, so we're looking here. Okay, so Joseph Short says Retro Ralph
Yeah.
mentioned a 250 gig. So do you want to kind of go
Yes.
back over that again?
I-
What we covered that
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, that was actually the virtual machine. When he connected through Steam, he was looking at the Windows machine at the other end of the internet. That wasn't what was on the machine itself. So the 250 gigabyte, the Xeon processors and the RAM, everything you saw was on the virtual machine. It was not on this machine right here.
So we figured that out. P Dub and I, when he was remoted in, I was telling him where to go in Windows. When we found the graphics card that's on it is an NVIDIA, and I forget which model. It was like the 5000. It's a $2,000 graphics card. I said, "There's no way that a $600 arcade system has a $2,000 graphics card on it." With
It would be nice.
It would be nice, but I was like, If people are complaining about the cost of this and you're getting a $2,000 GPU, you got problems. So we kind of figured out that was what was going on. So
Right. And actually, between the cost of the machine, I mean, it's available at Sam's Club and Walmart, and Sam's Club is a subsidiary of Walmart. But if you can, you want to get it from Sam's Club because it's actually cheaper and you get more. It's a slightly larger machine. I'm not sure of the dimensions of the one at Walmart, but I'm being told it's a little bit smaller.
really,
And you don't get the blast interface. They always said this was coming in two sizes. This is supposedly the larger of the two, and they do make a smaller one, and I believe that's the one Walmart's going to be carrying.
well, Walmart already has it. It's already been. I saw it the other day that they put it in. Like you can actually get it online. But I was told, and PK, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Walmart one is exactly the same size as the one at Sam's Club currently. Because I thought Harold told me a while ago that there hasn't been a definitive release date for a 3/4 size one. I could be wrong. I could have misunderstood that. So maybe you are right. Maybe it is smaller, the one at Walmart, or people just aren't measuring right and giving you wrong information,
Right.
Glenn.
Right. That's my understanding that it was the smaller unit and didn't come with the blast. And the little blast here is actually pretty good. I mean, the games play very, very well. There are the arcade ROMs on there, and you can always pull this off. Pull the blast out, take it with you, go to your friend's house, and still play those games.
I still think, and he doesn't have to confirm or deny, but this is something you and I talked about. I still think it's going to be cool that eventually, it's going to happen. They don't even have to confirm it. That everybody getting on ArcadeNet, everybody playing this online, you'll be able to play maybe 2-player games with somebody else with the same Legends Arcade system. Like Glenn, you could be there, you could be playing me or something in like, I don't know, Pac-Man or whatever's on that ArcadeNet. I think that'll be pretty cool, and that's something that's kind of a game changer right now.
Right. That would be good. I know that MAME supported that capability, and since my assumption is that MAME is the underlying code in here, you should be able to have that ability turned on, and I think it would be kind of cool. To be honest, again, it'd be a nice feature. So that once again would make this a Swiss Army knife of machines, just to have all these different functionalities built right in.
So PK is saying in the chat room that the one at Walmart, if I'm understanding this correctly, the control top is wider. So maybe the overall width of the system is wider at the Sam's Club one versus the
Yeah.
Walmart?
Yep. He is saying the main cabinets are identical, so the height and the rest of it is the same.
Yes. Okay. So there you go. So now you guys know, if you're short on space, no pun intended, you can get the one from Walmart and save yourself a few inches. Uh, some people are really I guess the word for is anal retentive about, like, I only have this much space. This will fit perfectly. I don't want to put it over there. I want it here. So I'll buy like a 2 or 3 inch shorter machine just to put it in that spot. So, I mean,
Oh, another quick thing here. Stefan Kurz, if I'm saying his name right, is adding, but I add more storage via the USB means I have to add it to the USB port in the control panel. I like to have it hidden. The USB port, I haven't really taken a look at it yet, but we might be able to add a USB hub inside the control panel
yes, that's what I was going to
under
do.
here.
Yep.
And then you would have that hidden. That was one of the things I was going to try as well. If anyone's seen Retro Ralph, he already beat me to the punch. I didn't have the machine yet. He threw a Raspberry Pi in here as well. And when he did that, he brought the wires up here into here.
Right.
Now, the HDMI port is accessible inside the control panel, and I have an HDMI splitter. So you can actually have the HDMI ports up here and put like 4 or 5 more if you wanted to inside the unit. I didn't get a chance to tell that to Ralph. I talked to him for a few minutes this morning, but he was busy running around. So there is ways to very easily access HDMI and USB inside the control panel here. And Steven said he's going to try it, and I'm definitely going to try it.
So
I don't see why it wouldn't work.
So here's a question too, either PK or you, pass through on the video. Now I know there's some HDMI ports on it, and somebody said, I don't know if it was Ralph or Doug, that there is an extra HDMI spot on the monitor. Has anybody been able to confirm that that is what's called a pass-through HDMI port, where if I were to hook up a TV to that, I could mirror the display of the arcade onto a TV? And the reason I'm asking is for broadcasting purposes. If that is an HDMI pass-through, I can put one of my HDMI to SDI converters on it, bring it right into the switcher here, just like I'm doing with the video now and being able to pull in web pages and things like that. I could bring that in without going the route that I was going to go, which is a little bit more convoluted, but it would work. Do you know, Glenn? Have you tried? I know you only had it for an hour, but what's your knowledge on that from the prototype?
Can you repeat the question? My son was here trying to flag me down.
Okay, no
worries.
worries.
Tell me something, I missed it.
So on the monitor in the back, there is another HDMI port that is it a pass-through HDMI port? Meaning, can you hook it up to an external TV and see if it displays?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's something we're going to try. I don't know.
Yeah, let me know, because that would make my life easier getting it into the switcher for doing a show like this. Like if you wanted to demonstrate something, we could set it up where I'm standing in front of it and you're telling me go here, go there, and we could demonstrate something with that to bring it into the switching system here for the broadcast. That would be
right.
It would be easier. I have other ways of doing it with using pieces of hardware that I have. I was just curious because that would make life so much easier being able to do it that way. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, I know Retro Ralph had taken the back off. I haven't even done that yet. Basically, I know people heard me say before, this took me about 16 minutes to put together. And then I was actually doing a recording last night and had other things to do last night. So I wanted to get it done as quick as possible. So I haven't actually attacked anything up here other than taking the board down here to take a look at, some things under here on the bottom. But there is a board here, by the way. It's just I took it out, just so you guys know. This has got a bottom on here. I just took it out to do a little tinkering, but I haven't got to tinker behind the monitor yet.
See, I was even thinking, going along with somebody saying in the chat room about putting extra storage in there. I could see you making a drawer on that front control panel underneath that's kind of hidden that you could pull out, or like if you put a Raspberry Pi in it, or extra storage that's on a USB hub that's Velcroed.
Right.
These are some of the things I want to look at, whenever the cabinet comes, whenever it's shipped out. I talked to them earlier, and Harold's like, I don't know what time we're going to send out the units. So I'm hoping soon, crossing my fingers. So
Canada's not that far away.
I know, right? It's probably coming from whatever U.S. distribution. I mean, that's kind of how Arcade 1-Up does it. So I don't know. So there's a lot of things that we could play with that I know we could probably give answers to people once we get a chance to mess around with it and you get some more time with it.
Right. There's always episode 2.
There is always episode 2. So guys, we're gonna have to wrap this up. I mean, we kept. What has this been going on? Almost 2 hours.
It's been like 10 minutes, right? It's been about 10 minutes.
We wanted to kind of give you guys a way that you could come on here, and we are streaming to multiple places. We actually have this going to probably 10 different destinations, and I have a Roku channel. If you guys go on Roku and you search TTB Network, you can watch this live from your Roku in your living room from the comfort of your own 60-inch TV or whatever you have, and you can chat along here on Facebook if you'd like for the next episode. And we also have a Fire TV app, so you can watch live or you can watch any of the pre-recorded shows. Now, I will say it's not just all gaming. I do have tech and broadcasting shows that I do, but we're also out to YouTube, to my Twitch channel, and I think going forward, I know, Glenn, you shared it out to some of your pages. I shared it out to my pages.
Right.
So we're trying to get it out there because we want you guys to have a platform where we can all talk about this and everybody can get the right information. There's too much misinformation going out there, and I swear it clutters my feed and I kind of get tired of it, to be honest. So, I see, well, Retro Ralph said this, and then you have Ralph do the video and he's like, I never said that. And then you have, oh, well, no, Glenn said you can do this, and Glenn's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't even gotten that far yet, So to have a one-stop shop, so to speak, where we could go and I'm going to switch you back to your camera here so that way you're not kind of hidden there. But we can go to a place where you guys can get, the best information. Yeah, there he is. There he is. He was hiding all this time. But I think that'll be ideal, Glenn. What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think absolutely. This is the whole point of this, and my son is now ripping through my stuff back there. He can't wait 5 minutes.
He wants to get on that game.
He wants to get on the game and wants to eat. Why does he want food?
Yeah,
he's got to eat. I don't get it. But that's why I'm glad we got this first episode off the ground. I think this is a great idea. We can definitely get, there will be other people on here joining us. Yes. And it is a good venue for people to talk and get information from the horse's mouth. Like here we did have PK and other people from ATGames who joined the stream to answer questions. And that's what this is really going to be about. Your chance to not only talk to us, but to possibly talk to people from the companies to get the facts straight. And that's hopefully we did today.
Yeah, and we wanted to do it with high quality video, be able to give you the ability to call in, like we saw. Matt joined us. He was one that was jumping in. That was something we wanted to be able to do, and eventually maybe we'll have a bunch of people that are calling in and that we're kind of rotating through people. Because I mean, Glenn, that's something that's needed because there's a lot of people with questions, and some people don't like to just type, right?
Right.
So it's a great way.
You don't like me typing. You don't like me typing.
So before we wrap this up, in case people don't know, we want to get this out there. Where can they find all about you and check out all the stuff that you do?
Well, my primary is the YouTube channel, Glen's Retro Show. But if you're on Facebook, we have a number of different forums on there. We have the official Arcade 1-Up fan page, which obviously represents the Arcade 1-Up machines. We have the official ATGames group, which, of course, works with the ATGames machines. We also have the Basic Fun fan page. We have the Replicate fan page, which is the new wave arcade machines. Numbskull, I'm involved with the Numbskull fan page. We also have the Super Impulse Tiny Arcade fan page. And of course, Glen's Retro Show Game Gurus also on Facebook.
So you guys can go check him out. And like I said, I reached out to Glen. I told him what I was thinking about doing, and I told him, I have the ability to produce high-end video that we could do this. Are you in? And he's like,
Yep.
Sign me up.
I'm going to bring the low-quality video. You have the high-quality video. I'm bringing in that low quality.
He's bringing that retro stuff up. Well, hopefully we can get that.
You're the yin. I'm the yang.
But we're hoping to get, like, Doug Cool Toy. You guys know him, Cool Toy. We're hoping to get him on with us.
Right.
I know I talked with Michael Manna. You guys know him as Dr. Stevie Richards from WWE, as well as ECW. I think he's on. He's a big gamer. He started looking at some of these arcades. Him and I have been friends for like over 10 years. We started doing tech shows, and it's a long story, but he's interested in coming on and doing the show too with us. And
Right.
Retro Ralph, you said he's interested, and I
Right.
talked with
He's
P-Dub.
interested.
P-Dub's all for
Willie
it.
from Arcade USA. We'll have a lot of people who are willing to come on, and I think that's advantageous for everybody to get the opinions of people who are in the community. I'm sure we can even probably get John Hancock. He's a friend. We get him on the line as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for it. Like I said, I've subscribed to most of you guys on YouTube anyway, so it's kind of cool. I would say we could probably even try for ETA Prime, but he doesn't like to be on camera much. You see the hand.
No,
I think of Dr.
you see his hand. You get the hands.
You'll get
the
the
hands
hand
out there.
We'll have him come on as Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, if anybody remembers that. But yeah, no, we just kind of wanted to come on here, and this is the first episode. Maybe we'll get into some gameplay next time. I have that ability to pull it in where Glenn could talk to you about one of his favorite games, or whoever's on, and we could pull that up in emulation and kind of show it.
Atari ET.
There you go.
Atari 2600. Yeah, there we go. Favorite game.
So we can pull something like that up and do. So we want to hear from you guys. So if you want to leave comments on here, what you'd like to see us cover, or some of the things, what you thought about it. Listen, if you hated it, that's fine. Be brutally honest. We're okay with that.
Yeah, let us know.
We
can make changes too.
We'll make changes, and we'll see. But again, if you don't do an episode and you don't put it out there, you don't know what you're going to get, right? So
Right.
and like, if we want to work on some of these graphics, these are some of the graphics that I found. I thought, well, I'll use some of this, and made the lower third, and so these are some things that we could do to make things better. But we really appreciate everybody coming out here, and
Absolutely, thank you.
we will see you next time. And you guys, if you want to check out anything I do, go to thetechbuzz.net is my website. I'm pretty much known as the Tech Buzz everywhere on the internet. So if you just kind of Google that, you'll find me. Even on Facebook, if you want to send a friend request, I'm okay with that. So, Glenn, it's been a pleasure. It's been great.
Same, sir.
I had a lot of fun.
Good first episode.
Yeah, man. I think we all had a lot of fun, and so we'll get this up on YouTube. Hopefully, Monday morning I'll try to get this up. And then you guys can, if you missed
YouTube's
it,
got enough room. You think they'll have enough space?
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah. So one of the other things, we'll just let everybody in on a little secret here. One of the other things is I've been talking to Local Access TV here in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio. I'm in actually Eastern Ohio, and they want to run some of these shows that are like the high-end, real well-produced TV-like shows like this. So there's a possibility we could end up on Local Access TV in front of 100,000 people or so. Glenn, that could be fun.
Or the three people up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching it. Either or.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Hey, they were talking about putting us in a good time slot, so hey,
nice.
It might be 1 o'clock in the morning. You never know.
That's the best time. I'm just getting ready for bed. Sit down, put the TV on. Perfect.
All right, Glenn. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next time. I got to work on an intro and an outro, but until then, this is just something that I put together. We'll see you guys next time.